Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors can talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. And you can find us on Facebook. Just look for The Writer's Dream. If you wish to be on the show, you can you could contact me there. We're also on the LTV website. Just look for LTV dash um, easthampton.org. I hope I have that right. It's dash eh.org. We're on Cablevision Long Island, Channel 20 on Fridays at 3 o'clock. So we're all over the place. But if you're interested in how a book is made, in how authors work, and how they get their books out there, this is the show for you because there are probably around at least 150 authors now. If you look on my YouTube channel, which is Linda Maria Frank, just look for that, click on my picture, and you will get all of the videos. Well, enough yammering about the show. Let's talk about our guest. Very exciting. Her name is Rebecca Rosenberg of Historical Forays into the World of the Roaring Twenties. Okay, and her book is called Silver Echoes, a historical Roaring Twenties novel. And I'd like to read a short review before we get to talk about your book. Okay, Rosenberg's prose is as sharp as small daggers. Ooh, her images leap off this page. If the hectic pacing and amnesiac gaps are occasionally disorienting, they are also thrilling. Riches to ruin, a star's dangerous double life, silver dollars, full births, a vengeful alter ego. High wire peril, mesmerizing tigers, ambition versus madness. A dark, magical tale ignites a terrifying transformation. Wow, that sounds like one exciting book. Okay, so what inspired you to write this book?
I grew up in Colorado, even though I live in California now in the beautiful vineyards of Sonoma. And I have been writing the Champagne Widows series, but my heart is in Colorado, and I knew about Baby Doe Tabor, who's the most famous woman in Colorado and of national fame. She rose to be the richest, most scandalous woman in America in the 1880s. And so I knew about her and I wrote this book, Gold Digger. And I knew that she had a daughter whose name is Silver Dollar Tabor, and that she had a very exciting life. She was a super talented person, and I know we'll get into this later, but so talented writing books and plays and songs and performing. And yet she met with a horrible, horrible death. And it was a huge scandal all over the country. So I just had to dive into what really happened to her. Full name is Rosemary Echo Silver Dollar Tabor. And that's why I wrote Silver Echoes. Excuse me.
Okay, so what is it about? So it was more the character than the historical period. Uh,
Yes.
but what is it about the Roaring Twenties that so captured you?
Well, Silver Dollar became a movie actress, and you can actually get on YouTube and look up Silver Dollar Tabor and see her in movie clips, silent movie clips. And so I realized, wow, she really had made that kind of fame. She was already in movies. And then as I got into this and found reports from a New York Post and New York Times reporter of the time, he had researched that she landed in Chicago at one of the biggest movie studios we had in the country at the time, which was Selig Polyscope. And so that is, and you can find that online also. It's a huge, huge movie studio. And weirdly, they had an entire exotic zoo as part of that studio because they used all the animals in their movies.
Hmm.
And so when I realized that Silver Dollar had actually worked there, then my mind went crazy, and then I got more into research and I realized that she had been in the vaudeville circuit, dancing and singing, and that slipped into the burlesque circuit. So I really got into those arenas within the 1920s era in Chicago. Fascinating, fascinating part of
And
history.
such a violent upheaval of accepted values and lifestyles. I mean, that was the time when, I mean, the turn of the century happened, but women didn't get their vote till 1920. But there was all of that upheaval going on, World War One, and then finally, I mean, the gangsters. It was, and of course, prohibition. Prohibition was very big here on Long Island because this is where all the stuff came in. So,
Absolutely, yeah. I think that time is got to be my favorite time. I've always, I dressed flapperish today for you. It's always been my favorite time to research. But when I found out Silver Echoes was right in the thick of it, or Silver Dollar, and I'll explain, we'll probably get into why I called it Silver Echoes. But
yeah.
when Silver Dollar was in the whole vaudeville and speakeasy circuit, I mean, that was just too irresistible.
So let's talk about plot.
Okay.
Uh, the teaser for your book talks about a plot, a dual plot in two times. That's exciting. I've used that device in two of my books, and it's exciting to do.
It is. And the reason I wanted to do that is because one timeline in 1932 is uh, her mother, Baby Doe Tabor, trying to find out what happened to her daughter. And so she's in the gold mine. It's actually a silver mine. They did gold too. They did a lot of different ores, but she is working in the silver mine, and there is potentially in 1932, after the Depression, or as the Depression was getting over, the president wanted to really activate all those silver mines again. So she's busy doing that. And I thought that was very exciting for her to learn more about what had happened to her daughter. And then the other timeline being in the 20s and what was actually happening to Silver Dollar.
Okay. So what, without giving it away, what exactly? No, no, not exactly. What, in general, what is the plot?
Well, the plot is that Silver Dollar, as I told you, is working she's actually working in Colorado as a movie actress, and she's made movies in Colorado. And
Mhm.
that's the one that I found on YouTube that you can watch. So that's exciting. So she's there, but then a terrible, terrible attack happens to her that is key to the plot. And it really triggers a huge transformation in her because actually, Silver Dollar experienced huge trauma as a young child because her family lost all their wealth and her father died and her mother was destitute. This is the richest family in the country. And now she was destitute. And all that was because of the silver crash of 1893. So the mother had to take this little girl up to the only place that they could escape to, and that was their silver mine. And she made her live in a one-room cabin with her way up in the mountains, completely isolated from anything. So, and I've been in that cabin many, many times, and it's still there. The whole mine is still there. So that's very exciting in Leadville, Colorado, 2 miles high in altitude. So you can barely breathe, your eyes hurt, everything hurts. And here she raised that young girl in a one-room cabin with her, and she was busy mining all the time. So Silver had a lot of trauma. So when she got that attack, which it comes by surprise in the book when she is attacked, it really triggers this other personality who is Echo Lavode. And Echo Lavode is actually a character that Silver Dollar invented in her writing. And so she took on that persona and she went to the Midwest and she started a whole new career. And why? Because she was running from the person who attacked her. And she could not let, she's famous. She was very famous. Her mother was very famous. Everybody would know who she was in the West. So she had to escape. So
Yeah,
that's why that happened.
that is exciting. You know what I find really interesting as these two ladies, Baby Doe Tabor and Silver Dollar Tabor, they're named after objects and animals. It's so far from what people ordinarily name people, children, and whatnot. I find that interesting. It's almost like they're so objectified, I find, with those names.
Think about our famous stars and things today and what they name their children. They
Oh,
don't
Apple.
name them Apple. That was the one I was thinking of. Apple. How about X or what is Elon
Oh,
Musk's?
oh, please.
Yeah. So I think that was part of it because Baby Doe's real name is Elizabeth. And Silver Dollar's real name is
Rose.
Rosemary Echo Silver Dollar Tabor. So by then, that's her actual name that is on her gravestone
Okay.
and was on her birth certificate. So I think by that time, these again is the richest family in America. They're naming their children very fancy names.
Yeah, I guess so. I just wonder if they do that because it's marketable more than Elizabeth and Rosemary.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
It makes
But I
it
found
makes
that
them
really interesting.
it makes them behave in bigger than life ways. So they're naming them to be a star, right away.
Right. Well, Silver Dollar is definitely star material.
Yeah.
Are there any other characters you'd like to talk about? I'm intrigued by the devil, but the devil is her alter ego. Yes.
Yes. So on the cover, I love the cover because here's Silver Dollar in the center, and this is her amazing tiger act that she comes up with while she's working at the movie studio, and she is taking care of the tigers because she actually, Silver Dollar, had a lot of experience with animals in the mountains. She was taking care of horses. She had all the wild animals that lived all around her. And so she ends up taking care of the tigers, even though they petrify her. She works to tame them and to tame her own fear. So that, to me, that's a very touching part of the book, is that how she tames her own fear that actually creates her alter ego. She's trying to tame it with the tigers. And this is her alter ego, which has horns here. And that is Echo Lavode. And Echo Lavode is a totally fascinating character because she has two sides to her. And I think probably every devil that haunts us has two sides. The side that makes us feel good when we're doing it. Let's say if you have a devil of being an alcoholic, you feel really good when you soothe yourself with alcohol, but then what does it do to you? So it's really, Echo is that kind of devil to her. And she does a lot of things to hurt Silver Dollar. So they really get into a lifelong battle with each other. And then this lady here is the mother, Baby Doe, who's worrying about her child, but
Sure.
she has no money and she's in this mine, so she never is able to go help her. So they just write letters back and forth, and I have read all those letters as part of my research. In fact, I wrote this book 10 years ago and I didn't like it, and something was missing. And I went back and I looked at those letters and I realized something huge in those letters. Silver Dollar kept asking her mother to send letters back to her to a different name. So she actually used a dozen different names when she was in Chicago, and she used different addresses, and she had different professions. And she said she was with different men, or she was starting a flower shop. And I realized, it just dawned on me what I had missed and what no one else had identified, that she had what is called DID, which is dissociative identity disorder,
Okay.
which they hadn't even identified at that
Of course,
point.
then.
But Freud and Carl Jung had, right then, during that time period, were working on that theory. And they've written a lot about it, and I have some quotes from them in the book. So that fascinated me, and that changed the entire book for me. And I went to this dual timeline situation and could really explore what was happening to her psychologically.
So I'm going to come up with a theory about her multiphasic personalities. Is maybe she created them to keep herself safe from the person who attacked her, who she's afraid of. Who
No, and
knows?
she actually starts that way, knowing that she's doing that, because she draws on a character that she wrote about, Echo Lavoie. And she had already written books about her and stories about Echo Lavoie, and she was French and whatever. So she does create this person, but then it takes over. So that kind of scares me just talking about it. If you create a character and then they start taking over your life, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, tell us how the cover came about. That was an interesting story.
Oh, well, this is scary in itself, because everyone has heard of AI. And I had not messed around with it at all, but I was getting a manicure, and I said, hey, I'm going to enter into Copilot. It's Microsoft Copilot. I'm going to enter in all the things that I want in this cover. So I wanted the burlesque star. I wanted it to be very glamorous. I wanted the top hat. I wanted her sitting on a tiger. And I wanted her two people, the two most important people in her life, to be kind of ghostly figures in it. And what should come out but this image? And I was telling Linda earlier that the problem was that I sat on this image just as inspiration for the couple of years that I was writing this. And when it came to actually producing the cover, it didn't really exist. It's AI. It's like in the sky, but it cannot be reproduced. So we actually had to recreate it with an artist. And I was so pleased that we actually were able to do that.
Yeah, as I said, it's a stunning cover. I really think it's going to sell the book. Um, Setting.
Yes.
From all the things you've been saying so far, you had to do a lot of research because you had the Colorado mines and then you had Chicago. And I was that the most fun?
I loved not only the settings, but I also had to study each thing that she was. So I pulled a couple of the books that I read. So I had to read all about burlesque and all about fan dancers, and what it's like for them and what it feels like for them. And then I have a book on Chicago, all the history of Chicago in the 20s. And so that was fascinating. And of course, I've been to Chicago, and I know I've been to Chicago a lot. And so I knew those places. But then you find out that there's the largest movie studio before Hollywood even existed, that was there. So you dive into that research, but in terms of half of the book is in Colorado with Baby Doe. And I had spent weeks and weeks there, living there and writing this book. And I had grown up in Colorado, so I knew how that was, but it's always good to go to the place that you're
Mhm.
setting the book so that you can
I
really
agree.
feel what that is like. And
Yes.
as I was telling you, when you go to Leadville, Colorado, you see how isolated it is, how severe the weather is, how your eyeballs are drying out, and how your tongue is just dry as sandpaper, and you feel avalanches, and I'm right there with the matchless mine. That was the Tabor's mine, and really feeling all of that isolation. So that was key there. I love
Oh,
setting. Setting can be, characters, and they add to the characterization. That's that
yeah.
you're pre.
I feel that setting is a character. It's a character in your book, and I agree with you. Going to the place enables you to really transmit to the person who's reading the book a feeling about the place. And I know when I was writing The Mystery of the Lost Avenger, the Avenger's a real airplane, was manufactured by Grumman on Long Island and fought in World War II. My time period is World War II. That's the one that I like. But I got to sit in an Avenger in a museum, and when I did that, and I got into the plane because there was a plaque by the plane that said it was built by women, flown to the West Coast by women, because all the men were fighting the war, so the women did everything. And this feeling came over me of I have to write this story about these women. And I think as an author, you need that inspiration and you need to make that connection with your reader. So, publishing and marketing, just quickly, because we only have.
Um, what would you like to know?
Well, did you publish traditionally?
I have been published both ways. So I have a publishing company, and I find that to be very fun and exciting and creative because, like I said, I was able to actually do my own cover. And this one, for instance, is an actual painting of Baby Doe. And so I get to do that. Let's see, I have 6 other books, and I haven't been able to do that on those books. So I enjoy self-publishing, especially with your own publishing company. That kind of takes the pressure off of it. And I do a lot of branding because a lot of the books that I am writing are my Champagne Widows series. And I feel like these kind of fit right in because of the speakeasy feeling. So if you go on my website, I've started a blog that is all about the historical aspects of Silver Echoes, and I love doing that. I have a very large mailing list of my followers and my readers, and I feel like those newsletters, I try and make them newsy and exciting and fun, and that's my marketing. Of course, I'm on Facebook. Of course, I'm on Instagram. But I think that your own readers really are very satisfying. And I love the new blog that I'm doing because you get to dive into each little aspect, that you put in your book. Like I know that you've written books about how you wrote your novels, and the blog is my way of getting into the little subjects that you couldn't really cover in the book.
Okay, we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left. So I would like you to talk about what you felt was the best part of writing the book and the worst part.
Oh, ooh,
You could do either way. Worst,
okay.
best, worst.
Well, the best part is learning all the aspects that you get to learn when you're a historical fiction writer. Just all the things you learn, like I told you about the movie studio in Chicago. I had no idea. And why did they have a zoo? Oh, I had like a little picture of this is an actual poster of an act. And so this is a woman who actually was a tiger tamer. And so I got to see all of her YouTubes and all of that good stuff to develop the silver dollar echo situation. So I love the research, I guess, and using all that research in a storyline and having it really make sense and be exciting. I
I
love
like
to
that too.
thrill. Yeah,
That's my
that's my
favorite.
favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I taught forensic science, so all of my mysteries have that science in there. So I love doing that, and I love the research. I absolutely love the research. That's my favorite. What's the worst?
Oh, well, it's not well, the worst in this book was to describe the attacks and
Yeah,
yeah, to make it so that it wasn't, what do I want to say? That it didn't take advantage of it too much, but it made the point that
yeah.
this woman really did go through these attacks. So I had to work on those quite a bit.
Well, this has been a really interesting and exciting interview. I'm going to read your book, and good luck with the next one. What's the next one?
The next one, I might have the poster of it right here, is
I love it.
actually, this is my inspiration because it's about Bond, but it's License to Thrill, Lily Bollinger.
Okay, I've
So,
heard of her.
yes, Lily Bollinger is the head of Bollinger Champagne. So it's part of my Champagne Widows series.
Last question. Advice to writers.
Love the subject. That's my best advice because when you're writing a book, you have to reread it and re-edit it about 30 times or so, for me anyway. And so if you are bored at all, ever, you're going to sink and you won't get back to it. So what excites me is to get back to the story and to make it right each and every scene. So love your subject.
Yes, that's the way I look at it too. You have to have a story you want to tell. Otherwise, you're not going to tell it.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
Uh,
you, Linda. That was so much fun.
and good luck in California.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see spring come very soon. Take care.